Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
I love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Good morning, Bryan College Station. Welcome to a Thursday edition of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I'm Ryan Brauninger, filling in for David today. To my left is the velvety, yummy voice from East Texas, Mr. Olin Buchanan. It's the Go Hour. It's the B-Team version on a Thursday morning. It's B-Team because it's Brawny and Buchanan.
Got the Cade Bickham out there.
And Cade Bickham pulling the strings. So we are in backup mode on a Thursday morning, a very cold, windy, damp Thursday morning. It feels like February, my least favorite weather month of the year.
Really? Why is this your
January, and January would be second.
Well, I get it if you don't like cold weather.
Why would you like it? Why would you like this
Some
weather?
people like cold weather. I don't.
It's not that cold is fine. It's windy, cold, and wet that bothers me. And that is the typical run of form for the weather in those months.
Here's the thing: is that just last week, the weather was lying to us, teasing us like
It's almost like summer.
Yeah, and then they want to get you thinking, okay, we got through it. Now I'm going to remind you it's still winter.
Last Saturday, first pitch scrimmage at Bluebell Park was immaculate. I was like, there's no way that we're getting this weather on February 8th with opening day, February 14th, tomorrow. Number 1 A&M baseball opens their 2025 season. But I knew once we got 83-degree weather last week that this weekend was going to be cold, wet, and rainy. We know that it's going to be those different elements on different days. But hopefully we can get 3 baseball games in, and we'll get Michael Earley's thoughts on that in today's show. He'll join us in the 9 o'clock hour. OB with me right up until we talk to Coach Earley. As I said, it's the Go Hour. It's presented by the Warehouse at CC Creation. Maroon U is your ultimate stop for brand name apparel, gifts, and accessories for the entire family. After Coach Earley, we've got a lot of folks coming in to help me get through these 3 hours of radio. Gerrod Chadwell, Texas A&M women's golf coach, Aaron Torres of Fox Sports. We have a Logan Lee appearance to talk Aggie basketball, and then every Thursday, the Fan Show will take you home. Roy May and Matt Browning there in the 10 o'clock hour. Over there to my right in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, Miss Callie Garner. Good morning.
Good morning.
I like your new sweater.
Thanks.
Is it new?
It's not new, but I haven't really worn it here, so.
Oh, I haven't seen it before.
And
we usually make a point to, this office is very good, Olin, about being observant about what other people are wearing, or maybe they have a new hairdo.
It looks like she cherry-picked that one.
That's a good one.
Olin's been on it this morning, as usual.
But you're right. People are always discussing what other people are wearing.
That sounded like it was a little...
I'm still recovering.
Okay. Well, maybe later we can go over some things that will help you recover faster.
Okay.
Maybe don't hang out with Kay Nagley until 12 o'clock drinking wine.
I'm just not going to stop doing that. So.
Okay. Well, how have your morning workouts been going?
They've been great. My morning workout partner's out of town today, but they've been good.
But it was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing.
And now it's Monday through Friday thing.
So 5 days a week. You're rivaling this guy.
I know.
And yet, when she works out, she gets in shape and thin, and I just stay fat and sloppy.
I think that has more to do. Well, you're not fat or sloppy. You're in pretty good shape.
To be
for a silver fox.
Yeah, to be as old as I am, right?
Well, and you can't let the age kind of you can't let it beat you down in the gym. You were talking earlier, like you can't do as much weight as you used to.
Yeah, I can't.
The fact that you're in there, how many people?
I need to go see the great Dr. James DeStefano, so I can take a look at my shoulder. But I'm going to have to wait till I'm 65 so Medicare can pay for it.
Well, if you need help, like maybe with some investment, so you can grow your portfolio, grow your bank account,
so I can afford to go see.
So go see the doctor. You know where you might go?
I might go to Holistic Planning.
That's right.
Because they can help me on my investments.
They can.
I got taxes coming up. Maybe they can get me some tax money back. Maybe a lot of people are going to get a lot of tax money back if you're paying attention to what's going on. And then estate planning.
It does all that, and it helps you if you want to invest in pro sports.
Pro sports.
So you go to investinprosports.com today. More information on holistic planning. We would usually be over there in the cool zone. Yeah. But when B team, not the A team. This is a B team broadcast. You get used to it. If you want to interact with a B team broadcast of TexAgs Live, do it on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Eat, drink Buppy's. Buppy's has been in business for 35 years, catering generations of families. Buppy's mobile bar is available for any outdoor event. Ask about their bar bundle discount, 979-779-6417. OB, the basketball race in the league is unfolding yet folding, I feel like, depending on what area of the league you're looking at by the week, right? And when you look at the top, Bama and Auburn, I think they have made a clear distinction that right now, at least, the winner of the league looks like it's going to come from the state of Alabama.
It probably, and the winner of the league may be determined this weekend, tomorrow, when Alabama and Auburn play.
It could be, but when I'm going by tier list, and what I mean by folding and unfolding at the same time, we were talking about this yesterday in the foyer with Tom Schubert. These bracketologists, prognosticators that are trying to put together the field of 64 and how many teams in the SEC are going to get in, there is a real logjam toward the bottom of that list of teams. And so they beat up on each other. Carl Ravitch, in his infinite wisdom yesterday, or that Texas game, did you hear that in the broadcast?
Yeah, I heard about that.
SEC teams, Bickham, are 82 and 82 in conference play, if you didn't know that.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
You have to have in conference play, you have to have a balanced schedule, unless one team has had a bye, another, but it's always going to be balanced.
Right, because every time an SEC team wins,
another one loses.
And then he went back onto Twitter and doubled down on what he was trying to say. It's like, no, you still don't get it, man. Anyway, what I'm saying is, A&M is comfortably in that group of teams that are going to make the SEC
A&M's in.
tournament. Right.
A&M's
but do you? And I don't know if we had the graphic to pop up for the standings, Bickham, if you got it handy. But what I'm looking at is, like, basically from Kentucky, the back half of the standings. I think Mississippi State will probably get in comfortably.
Mississippi State's going to get in.
But from Vanderbilt all the way down to Texas, maybe Oklahoma, there's some real questions to be asked about how many of those teams are going to play well enough down the stretch to earn a bid.
I think Vanderbilt will get in. I think Arkansas is going to get in. And of those last 5, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, LSU, and South Carolina, it's getting dicey. They're going to have to start winning some games. Texas has lost 3 in a row.
Why are you so bullish on Arkansas, which kind of segues us into this weekend?
I think they've won 3 of their last 4, including beating Kentucky on the road.
And they're playing, was the big Serbian kids playing really well?
Yeah, they're playing their best basketball in the last 4 games. The one game they lost was against Alabama by 4.
Right, and they had a massive comeback, right? They were down by 20, and they came back and made it a game.
So they're playing good basketball now.
Well, their next 4, A&M, Auburn, Missouri, Texas. They're going to have to split there.
If they can go 2-2, and hopefully one of those wins does not include A&M tomorrow, but if they can go 2-2.
Saturday. It does feel like a Friday.
Oh, yeah, it does. You're right. I'm sorry. My bad. Saturday. If they can go 2-2 in that stretch, then I'll be even more convinced they're going to. If they're 2-2 in that stretch, they'll be 17-11, and they had just picked up another quad 1 win, whether it be against Auburn, A&M, or Missouri.
And Texas is kind of muddy in that line too, depending on how well they play.
Lost 3 in a row.
But they're muddy in that line of Q1 and Q2, right?
Yes.
It is a big opportunity for the Razorbacks starting this Saturday with this road trip to College Station. And it's interesting to analyze this A&M team because their highs are as good as anybody in the country. That second half against Georgia, you'd watch them play and said, no doubt, number 8 team in the country with a chance to climb and get, you look at their ceiling, and it's a Final Four type of ceiling. And, once you get that far, who knows what happens. But it's just combated by those other halves. And what are they?
They're a streaky team, and hopefully they become more and more consistent as the season goes on. So the streaks are more like what we saw in the second half against Georgia, or what we've seen in second halves. They've typically been a good second half team. I think their strength, the more I watch them, obviously Wade Taylor's an excellent player. Everybody in the country would like to have him. But is that their depth.
Yeah, you really don't know who you're going to get it from, but they've been getting it from somebody every night.
The leading scorer, they've had a different leading scorer in each of the last 4 games. Solomon Washington last time.
I thought Solo, that was his best offensive game.
Oh, without a doubt. He had 18 points in the SEC tournament last year, semifinals, when they lost to Florida. But other than that game, the 17 points was his second highest point production at A&M.
And I was talking to Matthew Dawson about some of the metrics, and like A&M has, their shooting percentage are the worst in the country, or the worst in the league, and then they're so good on the backboards and on the glass that it can somehow mitigate it. But they keep falling on the right side of these metrics in terms of wins and losses. It reminds me as a baseball guy so much of the 2022 A&M baseball team, where you're sitting there going, can they keep this up? They keep winning a bunch of games, and they're old and they're experienced and they play so well together, but can they keep this up? And that A&M baseball team got to a Final Four. So if you're asking me, can this team keep it up in terms of winning games? Yeah, they can. It may not look the greatest all the time. It may not be aesthetically pleasing on any given night or in any given half, but if they get into the tournament, OB, and a lot of it, this depends on draw, but this team can win a rock fight against anybody in the country.
Yes, and they can go out and have trouble shooting and become vulnerable against anybody. Yes. But they just have they have a mental toughness that a lot of teams don't have.
And they get to these points in games where, against Georgia, against Kentucky, against Alabama, some of these spots in games, whether they're coming back and winning them or not, they get to a kind of a breaking point where you're going, oh man, this could get really bad. And they just hang around. They hang around. And whatever the spark is, and I actually think the spark occurred before the halftime break. I think Buzz mentioned that against
about
Georgia.
A minute and a half.
Yeah. And that they started playing better the last 90 seconds of the first half. And then obviously the second half was what it was. And I think A&M had just as big of a part to play as Georgia's poor shooting and poor decision.
Well, I think Georgia's poor shooting was derived from A&M playing better defense.
Yeah, and I think too, like everybody talks about halftime adjustments, and I think when you have an older team, you can give them more in terms of adjustments, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I think this club can be so good at doing stuff like that. These are all kids that, for the most part, that Buzz has been around a long time, and he trusts. He trusts the knowledge base of this team. He trusts the guile, the leadership of this team, that he can at halftime, if they need to completely change something, he can put that on their plate and it won't be too much for him.
Yeah, but you know what I think was the biggest adjustment at halftime was just saying, guys, you guys are kind of sleepwalking. Now, what's it going to take to play with that intensity that you typically play with, especially on the defensive end? And they came out like, rabid dogs in that second half. They were up on them. They were up on them, playing hard, playing aggressive. And the first half, they were a little bit more passive defensively. So it was more of an attitude adjustment.
Yeah, I think, and you saw that energy translate to the offensive end, and they got much better looks. You think about early in that half, they ran Hayden Hefner off a couple of screens. He had a 3 to tie the game.
Tied the game, yeah.
And it just seemed
part
like
of that 22-0 run.
Right. It was like at the genesis of it, like one of the beginning parts of it. And you're right. That defensive intensity is what sparked all that, though. It was a change on the defensive end that led to efficiency in the offensive end.
Yeah, and look, this. You played college baseball. Over the course of a long season, there's going to be games where you might even think you're ready to play, but you're just not playing at your typical level. And sometimes you never get it. And then sometimes, you kind of slap in the face and you're down 9 points and you turn it on. And I think Buzz was saying, hey, we can't afford to do this again.
That's fact. I believe him wholeheartedly there that they can't afford to do that. But it does speak to, again, just the experience, the cohesiveness of this team. One of the hardest things to do in sports is to show up and start a game flat and then flip the switch and turn it on. I don't care. I saw it last year with A&M baseball in a couple of midweeks. They had the midweek game. They would go on the road. They beat Texas. The next night on Wednesday, they're playing Texas Southern here.
Right.
And it's hard. They almost lost because it's so hard to start a game. And if you're not locked in, ready to go, as mentally sharp as you need to be, to flip that switch and make it go. And so this team, they've done that at a couple of points.
Toughness.
Yeah, they've done it at a couple of points this year, whereas a younger, less experienced team, I think they would have had a couple of more losses on their record just because they weren't able to overcome some slow starts from a mental side. Anyway, we got a lot more basketball to get to in the show, in this hour with OB. We'll talk a little bit Aggie football as well and then some national storylines. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Lucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Lucci sent you by.
8:22 on a Thursday morning. Welcome back to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Inside the Rollo Insurance Studio, the B-team version today. Ryan Brauninger in the host chair. David Nuno be back with you maybe tomorrow or early next week. If he's not back tomorrow, Nick Savage will be in the host chair, as it'll be for Aggie baseball opening day. And during that commercial break, a little bit of breaking news. 2026 athlete defensive end, most likely Jermaine Kinsler, 6'7", 260-pounder, originally out of Florida, but has been playing at Bergen Catholic High School in Oradell, New Jersey, has committed to Texas A&M. This was a kid that was at junior day in January. Like I said, 6'7", 260. That's a big old dude. But really athletic, has a brother that plays at Miami. A&M continues this kind of out-of-state trend in recruiting, OB. It's interesting, to say the least, right now that the majority of their class, and I say the majority, all but one, are from outside of the borders of the state of Texas. So they make another addition this morning. Again, this was a kid that visited last month, but was in the process of scheduling other official visits. Based off what I was just able to pick up this morning, and it sounds like he had just set a date for his official visit to Texas A&M this summer, and then decided the next day that he's going to, after setting that official visit, go ahead and commit. So this stuff's it's more. I don't know that there's got more eyeballs on it in terms of people following it, but it's getting more interesting to follow the trends, to me.
I just know this, that, look, I'm great. This kid who's probably a really good football player, otherwise Elkhorn Company wouldn't be offering. And you got to love those measurables, right? That he's interested in Texas A&M, and he says he's coming here, and I hope he is. But to me, especially when it's an out-of-state guy, there's 10 months to go before signing day.
Yes.
And to me, that, and to all of us, I think now, we understand, that's getting a big marlin on the line. But there's a big difference between getting that marlin on the line and getting him in the boat.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. And it's becoming, it's just going to be kind of a case study to follow in this era of player movement, as unencumbered as it is and looks like it's going to continue to be. Is there more value in indexing? What I'm going to say about indexing is indexing means moving. If you've got a pool full of kids at a position that are similar, very, very similar, the traits, the measurables, the off the field are almost indistinguishable. Is there more value long-term in your program for indexing on the Texas kid?
Well, if everything is the same, I'm taking the Texas kid.
Sure.
Because he's more likely to stay with me.
Now, what you don't know is, I don't know what their big board looked like and where this kid sat compared to other kids in the state.
Right.
This may have been I tend to believe this was an upper echelon target for a lot of those coaches. He's listed as an athlete, number one defensive lineman. If you look at it, number one defensive lineman in the state of New Jersey.
Number one player.
Yeah, number one player in the state of New Jersey. Excuse me. Good catch, OB. But it's just something that I think our recruiting team is going to be following pretty closely, is not just at Texas A&M, but when you look at the transfer portal each year as a whole, how many of these Texas kids that leave the state are wanting to come back home? So maybe a byproduct, a beneficial byproduct of all this madness that is the transfer portal and player movement, a beneficial byproduct could be that it regionalizes rosters more, because there's more value. A kid from Louisiana is going to stick at LSU more often. A kid from Arkansas is going to stick in Fayetteville more often. Maybe that's where we're going.
Look, I have again, let me reiterate, personally, I have no issue with going out and getting a guy from New Jersey if he's a great player, or anywhere.
Fidel Diggs is a good player.
I'm just not going to celebrate too much until the name's on the letter of intent.
Yeah, and even all these binding documents are becoming less and less reliable in terms of, you got to let's just wait and see what the roster looks like in June whenever they get ready to go into summer workouts.
Right. I may not even celebrate until he actually gets a sack, for the Aggies, because it's and I think that's a bad thing that's happened to college football. And I know they're going to try to come up with ways to curtail that this revolving door of players. But
how do you do it? How do you put the genie back in the bottle?
I think what's eventually going to happen is that they'll still sign that NIL, but it's going to be a contract for 2 years with pay, and this is how much you're going to get paid when you sign it. and you're going to have a third year as an option, just like you would sign a pro contract.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do that, there would probably have to be some sort of collective bargaining deal. You'd have, I don't know if you'd have to do a salary cap. Major League Baseball. One of these things that they're talking about with Major League Baseball is, it gets criticized for not having a salary cap, but they keep having new winners. They keep having new teams win the World Series. Whereas the NFL, it's been a lot of the same teams over the last 5 years, either winning the Super Bowl or getting there. So certainly an interesting.
Well, in a lot of sports, once you have a dominant player, like Kansas City's had.
Well, and I expect like the Dodgers should go back, the Shohei Ohtani, they go out and they add, it's about basically $1 billion roster. And I'm not taking a shot at Richard. He knows that. We discussed it yesterday in the foyer. Like, they should win 120 games out of 162, and they should win the World Series again. So, but maybe, my argument, or the argument, pro baseball argument about no salary cap, actually somehow lending itself to diversity of outcome, is just a snapshot. It's not a overarching theme or anything you kind of set in stone. But right now, as a snapshot in time, baseball has had more fluctuation in who wins the trophy than football has.
Yes, it has. So,
but to go back, I mean, we got far afield from the point of how do you handle contracts with college athletes if this is not a private equity situation? Like, eventually, I'm just telling you, we're seeing it in little spurts, in little spaces across the country. I think we're headed to the privatization of college athletics, where Texas A&M football might have an owner.
I don't think so. I don't think it'll ever get to that point. I really don't, because
why not?
It's a state university.
Sure. So the private schools would be able to do it?
Perhaps.
Well, then there's another lawsuit, right? What I'm saying is, unless it gets out from under, if it's, there's nothing to me that's off the table in this realm, in this reality that we live in, as long as the NCAA is the governing body. There's nothing that's out of the realm.
Well, I've always said, and I think it'll be within 10 years, maybe even sooner, that the Big Ten and the SEC are going to expand and then break away from the NCAA, and they're going to say, hey, here's our own, I call it the OBAA, the Olin Buchanan Athletic Association. That could be a great name. And it's going to be probably about, in all 48 states.
OBAA or OBDA?
The OBAA Athletic Association.
Oh, I thought you said DA for something else.
Anyway, and they're going to have their own rules set up and their own governing body to make sure those rules are enforced the way the NCAA would not do. They're going to have their the officials under one umbrella, where you have one guy who's in charge of all officials, not just by this conference is going to call it this way, and this conference is going to call it. And it's
that should happen now.
Of course it should, but you can't when the NCAA is all it is. Okay, they put on the some playoffs, but really all it is a it's a bunch of guys that are getting paid to do nothing. In fact,
sounds like the life, huh?
If they put Elon Musk on the NCAA, they'd probably be done with it.
Here we go. Commercial break. Beckham, let's go. We'll be right back. Bottom of the hour. The Go Hour on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's.
Too much waste.
All right, welcome back. Here we have breaking news in the middle of the show. It kind of like we had a direction. I feel like we were going in a good direction. We were discussing Aggie basketball, SEC basketball game this weekend against Arkansas. We get breaking news in that last commercial break, and we ended up getting on a soapbox about a lot of different things, including Mark Emmert making $3 million a year and
to do nothing.
To do nothing, which sounds like a pretty good life. If you could finagle that, you would.
Heck yeah. You know,
hard to be critical of the guy if you wouldn't mind swapping shoes with him.
Well, I think if I had been in his shoes, though, I'd like to think that I would have done something like, you know, put some.
Well,
put some parameters in place that college football never would have gotten to the place it is, or athletics where it is now.
Having the tiniest bit of foresight to say, this is coming. If we don't do anything.
I guarantee you this. Had I been in charge of the NCAA, I mean, you know, who knows? But what would have happened? But I can promise you, I never would have said, hey, I know what we're going to do. We're going to put it in the hands of the government to solve our problems. I never would have done that. I think you can agree with that.
Yes, no matter what side of the political aisle you sit on, I think adding government to the solution.
Hey, Congress is going to solve our problems.
Just going to muddy the situation.
Yes.
Even more. You had there's some interesting going on in the football world.
Okay.
I'm always interested in A&M former players and their rise through the coaching ranks.
All right.
Right. So obviously Dan Campbell, notably, he's earned his opportunity in Detroit and taken the most of it. It looks like Aaron Glenn has earned his opportunity.
Of course he has.
With the New York Jets. Dennis Allen has been in a head coach's role now back as a DC. Gerrod Johnson has, name gets thrown around quite a bit.
Gerrod is so smart.
Yes, gets his name thrown around quite a bit in terms of promotions, but he's staying with the Texans for one more year to work with C.J. Stroud. And then yesterday, Connor McQueen, former backup quarterback, holder extraordinaire at Texas A&M, he is taking a promotion. He was at Incarnate Word, and Incarnate Word is growing a reputation quickly for producing young, innovative coaches. And you look at like G.J. Kinney, he was there at Incarnate Word, and then the guy they got there now, they're putting up big offensive numbers at the FCS level, and so Connor McQueen makes the jump from. I have it right here. Where is it at? Does anybody have that for me? I just saw it.
Incarnate Word.
From Incarnate Word to, I think he's one of the Raiders.
Raiders sounds right, yeah.
Yes.
Raiders.
So offensive coordinator, QB coach, to the assistant wide receivers coach with the Raiders. It's hard to extrapolate out how these coaching careers are going to go. And I've got no idea whether McQueen ever wants to get back into college football. But you look at his age, you look at the age of Gerrod Johnson. It'll be interesting if their names ever pop up to be the head coach here at their alma mater.
Yeah,
and I hope it's not for another 10 years. I hope Mike Elko stays for 9 more seasons.
That's true. Me too, because he's wildly successful.
Yes.
I got to know Gerrod a little bit. He was doing some work for us for a while, and man, he's just so smart. I'm not saying Connor isn't. I just hadn't spent as much time around Connor.
And I think McQueen spent some time at UCLA in some capacity as well. Let's see if I can find his coaching tree here. Here we go. Born in 1993, so he's in his early 30s. He has been at A&M as a quality control coach, then UCLA, Oklahoma, USC. All of those are as like grad assistants or offensive assistants. And then Incarnate Word as the OC and QB coach, and now the Las Vegas Raiders.
So he was coaching that quarterback they had last year. You know that quarterback at Incarnate Word last year?
Calzada.
You know where he is now?
Kentucky. Yeah, he's kind of been all over the map, but I'm glad Zach's getting another shot in the league. And he attributed a lot of the success and his, refurbished self as a quarterback to what the coaches at Incarnate Word had done for him.
Well, Incarnate Word has had a very explosive offense. Was it the kid Ward?
Yeah.
Ward was that.
They were the only. I think G.J. Kenny was the head coach there. Was like the only coach in the state of Texas that gave an opportunity with scholarship.
And I remember watching them when they played for the national championship. I watched them a couple of games before that, and they were putting up 50 points like it was nothing.
Yeah, this kid. So Clint Kelo is their current head coach. Another young guy. Like they're kind of. It's in a weird spot that they were. I don't know the football history of Incarnate.
Did they call
Ward.
him Incarnate Ward when he was there?
They should have.
I would have.
Would have been a great NIL opportunity, but I don't know they would have been able to keep him. They wouldn't have made enough money in San Antonio to probably keep him around. But Incarnate Word as a program, it wasn't long ago. They were playing like D2 or D3 football.
Yeah, they've
gone to the FCS.
A long way in a short time.
Yes, and so it's been a very interesting rise for that program that a lot of folks don't even know is in San Antonio.
They're kind of like you in your radio career, coming a long way in a short time.
I've been here a decade.
Well, but how long have you been calling A&M baseball?
This will be my second year. For those that have been asking, I am on more broadcasts, at least right now. I'm on more broadcasts this year than I was last year. So the schedule's ever changing. I need to thank Andrew Monaco profusely for giving me the opportunity to do that. One of the, if not the nicest humans of all time, one of the nicest humans.
Oh, Andrew Monaco?
Andrew Monaco.
Oh, great guy.
He has.
I mean, he likes me.
Everybody likes you, Olin.
Oh, really?
I'm telling you, if you had to go and you had to poll the people that listen to this show, the people that subscribe to TexAgs, that read TexAgs, rank your favorite TexAgs personalities, Lucci would be at the top. So let's cut Lucci out. And there's like this weird, Hunter Goodwin's got this weird cult-like following. I don't know if they all have the same haircuts as him or what the deal is. But I don't think Hunter should qualify either because he doesn't come on as often as he used to. But you're talking about everyday personalities at this company. We could do a poll. We could do a poll on the site today. You'd get probably 90% of the.
I have a demographic. The older guys the older conservative guys like me. But by the way, Monaco came from San Antonio, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Just like Incarnate Word.
Just like, and Cam Ward. He could be the Cam Ward.
He's the Cam Ward of broadcasting.
Could be. He's moving on up.
Like the Jeffersons.
But one thing that Andrew does, and he makes you feel like when you talk, and I don't know that A&M fans would ever get this opportunity to know him on this level, and we're fortunate enough that we have. When I talk to Andrew Monaco, he makes me feel like whatever I'm telling him is the most important thing he's going to hear that day. And it's genuine.
Well,
that's a great quality. That's a great quality to have.
I mean, for this segment to turn into, but Kissio meets but Smoochio, but you do a hell of a job. you do a hell of a job calling the games. You explain things well, and you have a lot of knowledge of baseball.
Can I say, I've said this to a lot of people that have expressed similar sentiments to me. I'm so lucky and blessed that I get to do this for a living because this is all this dumb brain does is sports stuff.
Don't you have a master's degree?
I do. I've fooled enough people to give me paper, but the pieces of paper on the wall don't make you smart. You know that.
If it did, I'd have paper all over my wall. I have wallpaper.
You can't even get some of your dad jokes are really good. They're great. But
because my wife's degree is all it's not even paper, it's all in some kind of glass etching and things like that. Her master's from the University of Tennessee.
I have both of my degrees
and her two
are
undergrads from Cal Berkeley.
My wife got her undergrad at A&M and then went to law school in San Antonio. And
I remember when I met my wife, she told me she went to Cal Berkeley. And I said, well, look, I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't shave your arms and legs, it's a deal breaker. So we've been married 20-something years.
When we come back, we'll close the Go Hour. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Everyone, David Nuno here in a moment right now for Snaps Clothing. They are the makers of the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snap shirts. I'm wearing it right now. This is part of their Tailgater collection. It's built for game day. My friend Edgar over there is doing great work. You've got to check out the clothing. It's the Pearl Snaps. It's the cool look. It's kind of hip, but also Western. You'll love it, and they have great stuff there. They'll keep you comfortable as you're repping your Aggie gear, and it's the place to go to get it. Whether you're watching the game from home or tailgating before watching the stands, these shirts have you covered. Head to snapsclothing.com. That is snapsclothing.com to gear up for the season.
All right, closing the Go Hour, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Inside the Rollo Insurance Studios, it's the B-Team version, closing this 8 o'clock hour with Olin Buchanan with a buy, sell, lease, and we might do it with this radio program today. Buy, sell, lease.
Oh, so it's on me. So usually David comes up with the topics. So, and you're just now telling me.
What I'm saying is people are probably selling this radio show
Well, no,
today.
I think we have the buy, sell, lease on the topics we've discussed.
Okay.
So, buy, sell, lease, is the NCAA necessary?
I'm buying that they're not.
Well, wait, I got to get to 3.
Oh.
You get to 3, and then you decide.
Okay. I'm not good at playing your games.
So, well, I'm just trying to come up with something on the fly here. If you got an idea.
You're the host.
No, you're in the driver's seat. You go ahead. You give us the buy, sell, lease.
No, I'm good. You're a backseat driver. Come on.
Okay. Is the NCAA as a effective overseer of college sports What else have we talked about?
Aggie basketball.
What about it?
Do they win the game on Saturday?
Yeah. Do they beat Arkansas? And is not shaving a deal breaker? Okay. Now I'm buying that the Aggies are going to win tomorrow or Saturday. I'm buying that all the way. They've been great at home. I'm leasing the. Hey, I got to tell you, I just said it's a deal breaker. So I'm leasing that you got to have, shave the arms, shave the legs.
That doesn't sound like you're going to lease that. I mean, that sounds like more than a lease. Either you're going to buy it or sell it.
Well, maybe there's nair, and that's technically not shaving, right? Don't you just spray that on? And then I am selling the NCAA. Oh, let's get
a lot about how much you don't like the NCAA.
Well, yeah, it does. Let's see, Callie, you buy, sell, and lease.
Those three?
Yeah, or any topics, I guess, at this point.
I can give you some time to think.
I'll give y'all a new topic.
Okay.
But it's like, okay. But it's just general sports.
Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. Buy, sell, and lease. And you have flowers as a gift, chocolates as a gift, or
a date.
A nice dinner as a gift.
I'm buying a nice dinner.
Okay, so I always have to buy it. Okay.
Leasing flowers, selling chocolate.
With y'all way. Why do you want your girl to get fat?
I'm buying.
Why are you going to give her the chocolate? I'm selling that.
I'm buying.
I might lease the chocolate so I can eat it myself, though.
I'm buying the run of form of Solomon Washington.
Okay.
I think he's going to play well for a good stretch here.
All right.
Him and Henry Coleman. That's who I'm buying.
Henry Coleman, man.
I'm buying Solo and Henry Coleman. I'm selling the idea of the NCAA being any sort of relevant anymore. The growing incompetence and the ever-increasing precedent that they have no more governing power is present day in, day out. And so I'm selling them as an organization.
I'm with you.
And I'm going to lease this notion that, I'm picking mine. You got to pick yours, then you picked hers. I'm picking mine. Then I'm going to lease this notion of out-of-state recruiting.
Okay.
I'm putting it on hold.
I'm all for it if they play here.
Right. But they lost 2 commitments yesterday, 2 days ago. And I know people it's weird how people 10 years ago, recruiting was like big deal. You lose 2 commitments in a day, and the message boards blew up. There was barely even a topic on the message board yesterday.
Because we're used to it.
Or it's just changed so much that people understand now that this player acquisition and roster movement happens so frequently and rapidly that you're essentially leasing these kids for 10 months at a time. And after 10 months, your roster may look completely different than it did the 10 months prior. So I'm leasing this heavy out-of-state recruiting in this era. In other words, I'm saying let's wait and see. That's where I'm at.
That's how it was with Irma.
And I know that every high school recruiting class in the state of Texas, whether you think it's really talented or you think that it's not as talented, typically it produces 25 or 30 NFL draft picks. How do you go about finding them? Even on years where you think that the talent level might be down. So I'm leasing that. I know you were trying to be funny.
You just dumped something in my lap. I had to come up with it.
God. All right, we're out of here. When we come back, Coach Earley on the other side. Poor Olin Buchanan on a Thursday morning.
I'm out of here.
So Olin's leaving. Might not even come back. We'll see. Tomorrow morning at the 8 o'clock hour, Nick will be here in the host chair. We come back. Michael Earley ahead of opening day on the hotline on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Just one more sleep away from Texas Aggie baseball kicking off their 2025 campaign. Ryan Brauninger in the host chair. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Joining me in the Rollo Insurance Studio is our baseball writer, Richard Zane, and we go out to the Buppy's Catering Hotline to talk to Texas Aggie head coach Mike Earley. Coach, opening days tomorrow. How much time have you spent this week looking at weather?
Shut it down because it'll try not to let that stress me out. But yeah, I mean, I look at it a lot. I've always done that. I mean, I think we know how the ballpark weather here can change your game. So it's not, that part is nothing new for me.
Where do you feel like your team is as you kind of guided them through the week? I know this is probably the toughest week of the year to manage from a standpoint of just emotions, anticipatory type of feelings. And then also, I'm sure your phone blows up more this week than it will in any other week, for the remainder of the regular season.
Yeah, I feel like we're in a good spot. I mean, I think what the message yesterday too was the game one is not the test, and then it's all over, right? So we got to continue to grow throughout the course of the season. So that was a message about yesterday. But yeah, I mean, a lot of good lucks, and it's been cool. I mean, the sport has been awesome, and I definitely don't mind it. I hear from you hear from people that you might not have heard from for a long time. So it's always good to touch base with some former teammates or former coaches. So it's been great.
Good morning, Coach. Obviously, the last 8 months of your life and being on the job are kind of building to this week and building towards tomorrow. So personally, man, where are the emotions at for you as you get set to make your managerial debut of the Fighting Texas Aggies?
I feel good. I'm, and once the game starts for me, a lot of stuff usually slows down, and I anticipate that being the same. That's how it was in the fall games and the recent scrimmage. I know it's different, but I feel good. I'm just I'm proud of everyone in this whole organization and what we've done to get to this point. And they're the reason I feel good. The players, staff, weight coach, training, all the way to Trev Alberts, to Aaron Jones, all the people that have kind of helped us along the way is the reason why I feel good. Not only just rolling into it, but I just feel like we're prepared, and that's because it's taken a village, and we've had that, so it's been really good.
On Monday, Coach, you mentioned that Caden Sorrell been a little bit banged up. Terrence Kill Jr. would take his spot. Any kind of update in the overall health of the team as you get ready for opening weekend?
Yeah, I mean, so with Sorrell, this is not going to be rushed, and he'll probably play later than he wants to play, but he'll be out for this weekend for sure. And then, just little stuff here and there. I don't know how much people know, but, Shot had the meniscus repair. He retore that about 3 weeks ago. So you see him hobbling around out there a little bit. It's not because he's not running hard. It's just, it's just how it is. And honestly, it doesn't change his speed that much. So, all joking aside, even though he's been great. I mean, he's been hitting great. So there's not going to be a drop in performance. It kind of hurts. There was some chance he might play a little bit of left field, but he played pretty well with it last year, and he's been really good this year. He's just going to have a big old knee brace on underneath it. But other than that, just your little stuff here and there that every team goes through. But yeah, I mean, it is a tough week for sure. You just want to practice today. Might just put bubble wrap on everyone and just kind of hang out. So
yeah, and then you had some very publicly kind of eyed and monitored positional battles at first base and catcher. I'm not asking you to reveal any final decisions there if you don't want to, but just how pleased have you been even through this week with all those kids competing for those spots?
They've done a great job, and I think the test is ahead for all of them and everyone. But obviously, those battles are a little more public, or I guess a little more up in the air. And it's just gonna be like, how do you handle game one if you're not playing, or game two, or game three? And the message is always stay ready to play. Like I again told the team yesterday, if we took a vote 3 months ago who's going to play every day in right field, it would have been 100% Caden Sorrell. And just like that, nothing that he's done wrong, but because of an injury, he's not out there. So they've been great. I mean, Binderup has defensively just gotten a ton better, just more confident. And he does some things that, like, he's gonna play professional baseball one day. He's got that total package. He's been awesome. And then, the catchers have been continuing to battle, and you'll see some matchups there, obviously, with left and right-handed, and then how Yamal progresses will, determine how much he gets in there as well. But you're going to see probably Yamal in the right field sometime this weekend too. Maybe even Gavin Grohovic. We'll see.
Maybe Gavin Grohovic in right field. That's interesting. Coach, Monday you announced your starting pitching rotation. Ryan Prager Friday, Justin Lampkin Saturday, and Miles Patton on Sunday. What went into making that decision, those three guys on those 3 days? And also, what have you seen from those three as they've been working with Jason Kelly towards getting ready for the season?
Yeah, I mean, they've earned it, whether it's been by past season's performances or performances this fall and spring. So it was, I don't want to say it was an easy decision, but I would just say it was an obvious decision for the moment. And then, they've done great with JK and the whole group of the pitching guys, from the dudes who look at what I call the video games on the computer and tell me how good the stuff is, to basic PFP work and things that it takes to win baseball games. So they've meshed really well. JK is just really good about creating those relationships and trust, and knows how to make in-game adjustments, and has the ability to make mechanical adjustments. I think that's why you're seeing some jumps from some freshmen that struggled a little bit last year. So it's been good all the way around, and all those guys just are so process oriented and go about their business, and they're professionals already, and they're already prepared once they leave here and continue on with their careers.
How big of a help has it been to have JK run entire drills with, he has the pitchers and the infielders, and they're running PFP circuits, and you're out there with the outfielders with Coach Longley, and you can also kind of walk around and manage your entire club. How beneficial is that to have a guy that's been in your role that can command an entire half of a practice?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I think we want to, there's a stigma, or not stigma, but like West Coast baseball and small ball and PFP and those little things. And all I think that is being good at baseball and being a winning team. And he's really good at that stuff. And that was it wasn't just like this guy's really good pitching coach at professional baseball, tried to hire years back a few different times. It's like this guy knows ball, right? He knows all those little intricacies of the game, and it's just because he's been in it a long time, but he's also been under some really, really good coaches. So, yeah, I wanted him here for a reason, and every reason I wanted him here for, I feel like I was right on. So it's been awesome.
When it comes to this weekend in particular, Coach, you spoke on Monday about how it's really the only week you get the full week to prepare for an opponent. So as you've really dug deeper and gone through that dive into Elon, what about Mike Kennedy's Phoenix Ball Club stands out to you, and what kind of challenges do you expect them to present this weekend at Bluebell Park?
I think the biggest challenge is going to be any team. It's that target on our back. I mean, that's just the reality of being a baseball player at Texas A&M. So they're going to want to come in here and knock us off, just like White Hensler and Jackson Appel did a few years back at Penn. So it's just I don't want to call it extra motivation, but I know if I were them, what I would be thinking. So I think that's the biggest factor, and that's just going to be all year. So it's going to be a test early on. I mean, their Friday starters, he's good. He's a professional baseball player. At some point, he could, he would pitch on our team like a few other guys on their team. So in today's college baseball, everyone has a guy. Everyone's got a player. So, the Friday night starter at Elon, I guarantee you, when you look up at the end of the year, he's going to probably go in the top 10 rounds, and he's a good pitcher. So it's going to be challenging all the way around, and they got some different pieces, and they do some different stuff. But but we're confident in what we do and executing what we do, and just playing good baseball, playing hard. I think we'll be all right.
You mentioned the Friday night starter, assuming that's right-handed, Justin Mitrovich. He's an All-Coastal Athletic Association pick. What in particular does he bring to the mound that could give your guys some fits early on?
Yeah, he's going to run his fastball. He was running his fastball during the season last year up 95, maybe 96. It's a little bit down in the summer, but to be expected just after a long season. He pitched in the Cape Cod League. Really, really good changeup. He'll throw it, You'll see some right-handed pitchers that throw mostly their changeup to righties, their slider. Right-handed pitchers throw mostly their changeup to lefty, their slider to righty. He's going to throw a changeup to both sides. A good, hard, tight slider. Yeah, I mean, he's got good stuff. He's a good pitcher, and I think he's uber talented. He's going to look the part when he's out there, and then we'll see how the fastball shape plays and how we can make adjustments and build off that. But we have a plan as always, and that plan, you got to be smart with it, right? Because the hardest guys to prepare for are like these first couple series. I remember one year at Arizona State, not to get long-winded on you, but 21, first series of the year after COVID, when all these pitchers changed a lot of stuff. We were facing a guy that was a sinker slider guy the year before, and he threw his first warm-up pitch, and he went straight drive line, short arm, right fastball, and a top-to-bottom breaker. So it's, guys make adjustments. So you go into the first couple of weeks, especially the first one. I've seen guys in the first week that threw over the top, and then they come out of the bullpen for the first series of the year, and now they're sidearm guys. So it's just first weekend, you got to just kind of play baseball a little bit.
Coach, have you made any decisions on what the Tuesday starting pitching role is going to look like, and how might this weekend will that have any influence on that decision, or has it already been made?
The weekend will have an influence as of right now. In a perfect world, we would go Weston Moss on Tuesday and him be like a true four-man rotation with him every Tuesday competing to be on the weekend. But he will be up on the weekend. So he is full go, ready to pitch this weekend. And if we need it, we need it. If we don't, we don't. And then if he doesn't pitch, he'll go on Tuesday. And then depending on how many he throws this weekend will determine the Tuesday. And obviously, in a perfect world, every team wants to have 4 starters. We all know it always sounds like a plan until something happens. But that idea for Weston would be he's up and ready this weekend. And then if we don't use him, or if we just use him sparingly, or for an inning or two, he would go on Tuesday. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But I think I'm sure those plans at some point are going to get messed up. That's just how the game goes.
Well, speaking of plans, you talked about maybe getting Jamal George into the game in the outfield, some behind the dish. How aggressive, at least, would you like to be in getting? You mentioned Terrence Kill Jr., Sawyer Farr, Sam Erickson, maybe some of these guys in the rotation spots at first base and behind the dish. How aggressive do you and your staff anticipate being in finding innings and at-bats for those guys?
I just think you're going to play to win the game, and whatever the game gives or dictates or what you feel in that moment is what it's going to be. Like, I have some ideas of who I'd like to maybe throw in right or in different spots, but also, like, TK's earned this right to play in right. So, I want him to play a little bit. You know what I mean? So it's just going to be whatever the game dictates. And the thought on Gavin ever going to right would be to get Sawyer in the game. So it's the first weekend. So, I don't want to do anything too crazy, but whatever the game presents, whatever the score allows you to do is what we'll do. So preconceived notions for me, I know are going to get blown up. Like, I know who I'm going to catch Friday, and I'm like, well, I'd love to catch someone else on Saturday and someone else on Sunday, but that guy plays well and he's playing well. I want him to play well. So it's, to answer your question, no.
Similarly, I'm just going to kind of expound upon that. Do you have a preconceived set of notions of kind of the roles for your bullpen and how they'll be carved out, or is that as much up in the air as some of these rotational guys with innings?
I mean, you're gonna see fresh corn. I can promise you that. You're gonna see. It just depends on if I had to pick one guy to go to first in a tight game. Obviously, some situations may depend on that, maybe where they're in the lineup, but that's the guy I feel really good about out of the bullpen. And then, Ty Baker and Isaac Morton, we've all seen what they can do. You've seen what they can do in practice. I'm not holding anything they've done in the past against them. Like, they've earned it, so you'll see them at some point. Brad Roos will have an inning this weekend, so no set role yet. I think that'll kind of play out, happen a little bit organically. And I trust that those guys are ready. If I asked them all to start today, they could start today. If I asked them all to come out of the pen today, they come out of the pen. If I asked them all to close, they could do it. That's just kind of how JK structures his pitching staff.
Coach Earley, thanks a lot, dude. We're pulling for you. Good luck tomorrow, and hopefully you won't have to stay on your phone too long battling the rain and trying to figure out a deal for Saturday. But thanks for joining us, Coach.
I appreciate you guys. Have a good day.
All right, that's Texas A&M head coach Mike Earley. Our baseball conversations with the head man are brought to you by Duck Camp. They know the best moments out there on the boat, casting a line, or hauling in the catch of the day. Be sure to check out Duck Camp's new spring hats, like the fan favorite crawfish hat and the redfish hat at duckcamp.com. Some interesting stuff in there.
Gavin Grahovic in right field.
Well, I understand why he's doing
Jamal
it. Right.
George in right field.
Yep.
Interesting. We kind of heard from Jason Kelly in the interview that you did that it might not necessarily be defined bullpen roles. Setup man closer, as the game has kind of evolved recently to having your best guys, your highest leverage guys in the biggest, highest leverage moments, regardless if it's 7th, 8th, or 9th. So
outs or outs, bro.
That's interesting. Like you said, you wrote in one of your pieces, 27 outs. They're finite. You got to get all of them. Doesn't matter when or how.
There's no study that's been done that proves that the first 9 are more or less important than the last 9. So I do like that. And they have a wide array of arms that they can go and a wide arsenal of different looks that they can go to get guys out.
And then before we go, I know you've got a Coach Chadwell coming up, but we got to kind of react to the Caden Sorrell thing, right? Caden Sorrell, a lot of guys talking about him in the preseason as potentially being Texas A&M's best player. I know they've got Jace Lavalette, they've got Gavin Grahovic, they've got all sorts of All-Americans in the lineup. Not going to play this weekend, dealing with a hamstring injury. You know a little bit more about that than I do. Seems like it's very precautionary, not rushing him into anything.
If I had to imagine, Caden's going to be pretty pissed he's not playing. But it's the right thing to do.
We saw him play on Saturday in the first pitch game, but he wasn't running, right? He had a double, it was a Cadillac double.
And he homered over Section 12. So he's doing enough things that make you think that he's not far away from being full-time. But the coaching staff, the training staff is 1,000% correct. And to hold him, because those hamstrings, if you're not 100% ready to go, that can be something that lingers throughout the year where he's in and out of the lineup, and you don't want to deal with that. It's better safe than sorry right now.
And it leads me to believe that if we were having this conversation in the middle of June rather than the middle of February, Caden Sorrell would absolutely be in the lineup.
Oh, for sure. I think Jace Lavallette's hamstring in Omaha was probably in a worse spot than Caden Sorrell's right now. I think when he heard it, it was probably worse than Jace's, but where he's at right now, I think he's in a better spot.
Did we go an entire interview without bringing up Jace Lavallette's name?
Yeah, but at this point,
I'm just
kind of
saying.
know what Jace is. Hey, and if you subscriber to the site, or you don't have to subscribe to the site, go to YouTube if you want to hear from Jace.
Yep.
About a 16-minute long interview. Jace came in here yesterday and sat down with me and was awesome.
Shameless plug. I wrote a story about him, went live yesterday. Quotes from Dalen Holt, Scott Livingstone, Tyler Naquin, and Gavin Grahovic about Jace. So
when we come back, Texas A&M women's golf coach Gerrod Chadwell joins me in studio. Flipping the page, a little driver, putter, 7-3 wood. I'm not a golf guy.
I don't play golf, man. I can't keep it straight.
I'm bad
My
at
balls
putt.
are always
Maybe
in the
Coach
woods.
Chadwell will help us out on the other side of the break. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Welcome back. Rolling toward the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Joining me in the Rollo Insurance Studio, Aggie women's golf coach, Short Game G. Where'd you get the Coach Chadwell? Where'd you get the name?
Well, I am short.
Oh, well, that's got to be. It's got to be a golf thing, right?
Yeah, short game is like inside 100 yards. I'd
Okay.
say probably when I was playing at a very high level, that's what I hung my hat on. I actually taught it for 2 years before I got into coaching in South Florida. And a lot of people call me G. So it was one of my very few creative moments to come up with that handle.
That's good.
But it is funny. It's resonated with a lot of people, and especially in golf and with the nickname. So
I feel like you have to, like, your girls have got to be good inside 100 yards.
Brauninger, you can come to practice today and say that you even know that. It's what we're working on. The margin of error is so thin, and so anything that you feel like inside 100 is more controllable than hitting a long drive off the tee. But a 3-foot putt counts just as much as 300-yard drive.
I feel like there's enough golfers in our listenership and within the 12th man that they do this daily. Stephen McGee's one of them.
Yeah.
Play a lot of golf. My buddy Evan Ike played football here, plays golf all the time. You should designate 5 minutes or 3 minutes out of every one of these interviews just for golf advice like that.
You could. We had talked to the guys, and there is a golf forum, I think, right?
There is.
We'll just put a little, whether it is a weekly or monthly little golf tidbit or golf lesson in there, and see if that.
It is crazy. All of my buddies play. I don't play at all.
Yep.
But how much the game captivates people so much. Like, is there a reason? Like, as an outsider, what captivated you about it? Is it just it's the you versus you thing?
Yeah, it's crazy. We were talking baseball a lot before we got here, not even golf. My father was basketball, football coach. He passed away when I was young, and my mom remarried a golfer, and that's how I got into it. But I was always a team sport guy. And I don't know if it was the compelling of it's like I joke and say it's you alone with your thoughts for 4 or 5 hours. As I get older now, it's the social aspect of it, the places that you can go and play. But I don't really know what really drew me to that. Maybe it was just because it was different. I hadn't done it. I had some success early. But to get to here, God has connected dots in my life to get.
Well, being good at anything helps you connect to it. So,
Absolutely.
But there's more that goes into it.
Absolutely.
And you talked about the team aspect for your team, just getting started.
Yep.
Where do you feel like y'all are at as a group coming out of this match in the desert?
I still, it's crazy. You could say in February, I still trying to feel like we're trying to find our identity. This is a very young group. In the sense of what we've had the past 3 years. So still getting meaningful competitive reps. This field that we're about to go see this week will be a postseason field. So we're going to know where we stand early. I think, we have such a big break from end of October to now. The match in the desert deal was a good way to kind of get the rust off, get the competitive juices going. But for us and for them, it's finally a chance for us to go compete to now we can bring that back and see what we need to work on and move forward from there. So I feel like we've been stuck in first gear for a long time.
Kennedy Adams, big run down the back, right?
Yep.
Birdie 4 of her last 6. It's got to be a big arrow pointing up sign for you guys.
For sure. We've had, in this time in our sport, we've had a lot of manufacturers come through and do some testing. And Kennedy transferred from the University of Alabama, a very heralded junior golfer. But is really starting to step into her own in this stage of her career in college golf. And every manufacturer to a person is like, man, Kennedy's impressive. She's an impressive young lady, but just has gotten stronger. Golf swing is becoming more repeatable. But I think she will be a big key for us from a leadership standpoint, but not only from a golf score as we go through this spring season.
And then the rest of the girls, it feels like trustworthy would be a good word for the rest of your group.
Yeah,
you kind of know what you're going to get every time out.
Absolutely, and it's like we've turned the page from graduating the young ladies that we did and Adela going on to professional golf. But there is but it's both sides. It's trust with us in competition. It's trust with them getting the rounds at this level. But and I don't know if that goes back to, like I was saying, our identity is like you just got so many new faces. And things happen in competition that galvanizes us as a group and that exposes us or gives us the chance to gain some confidence. So Yeah, I think trust is one of the very many words that we're still trying to put together with this bunch.
I've always wondered, if you go you play a football game in College Station, you go play a football game in South Bend, Indiana, the field's the same.
Right.
You play a baseball game at Bluebell Park, you play a baseball game in Fayetteville. The dimensions are a little bit, but for the most part, they're the same.
Right.
When you're practicing in Bryan, Texas, in weather like this, and then you've got to go play in Arizona or you're playing in Kentucky, does it take, I don't understand how that translates. How do you go into a tournament going, okay, I feel really good because we played golf in Bryan and now we're on super hard surfaces in Phoenix or wherever. Yeah.
It's in Mother Nature, It's you take all those elements in and based on our schedule, it's why we try and almost touch each coast because, our regional site depends on how we advance to nationals. So, we fly in tomorrow. We'll get to chip and putt a little bit when we get to hit balls, but we get one practice round, 18 holes to figure it out. And in a lot of places, you'll see your team get better as they get more familiar with the course. A lot of coaches like to keep the same venues on their schedule, so you have some familiarity year to year. But yeah, it's a pretty crash course in trying to put a game plan together. And then the funny thing is the running joke in college golf is you play a practice round in one set of conditions, and then lo and behold, the wind switch, the front comes through, and you're playing out of the north. So it's as you're learning the golf course in competition. So
especially this time of year. Where
absolutely, something's going to happen.
Yeah,
something's going to happen, and you're really going to see all the conditions, and really until you get into March and April. But I think that's just why we encourage our young ladies to play as much tournament golf as they can, so they can adapt. The team that adapts the quickest is going to be the team that has probably the most success that week.
I'm always curious in this era as we learn more about sports in general, biomechanics of it. How much do analytics have you seen it grow in the game of golf, college golf, and how much do you guys utilize those in your program?
Big time. We've actually partnered with a company that's even helping us build a separate database from there. So things that are specific to us, also with the stuff that they track. We're using testing stuff in practice. Everybody's familiar with TrackMan, but we're keeping stats through practice, through qualifying, when we go on the road. And eventually through what we're trying to do is we're trying to find our best lineup for postseason. So getting these young ladies as many opportunities as they can to compete. But we're using all that to figure out a lineup and to figure out how to help them get better from practice plans when we get home.
Coach, good luck this week.
Thank you, Brian.
Get you some warm weather, hopefully. I don't know what it looks like over there, but
it's going to be better than here right now.
it should.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm sure I'll see you around the ballpark.
Absolutely.
You're a big baseball guy.
I look forward to that.
We're both pulling for Coach Earley.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Good luck, Mike, this weekend.
Absolutely. Coach Gerrod Chadwell, Aggie women's golf on the road. Big tournament this weekend. Thanks for coming in, Coach. On the other side of the break, go back out to the hotline. We'll talk to Fox Sports contributor Aaron Torres on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Welcome back to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I'm Ryan Brauninger in the host chair today inside the Rollo Insurance Studios. Let's go out to the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Talk to GFOP, a great friend of the program, Fox Sports. Man, it does it all. Aaron Torres, one of my favorite conversations each week, especially when I get to talk to him and I don't have to listen to David pepper him with questions. Hey, T, good morning, dude.
Good morning. Good morning, Brawny. Yeah, I didn't say this on air, but I think, you might be the Walter Cronkite of TexAgs. You always ask great questions. Nuno can get off the rails a little bit from time to time, but no, man, I love Nuno, and I love coming on with you as well. I enjoy coming on with both of you. I'll be perfectly honest. I was not a big Nuno. You're just great at what you do as well.
Well, we enjoy having you. Our conversations with AT are presented by Milliken Reserve, a College Station community featuring homes, trails, farms, and wide open spaces with a mission to build healthy community around nature. Take part in the Milliken Reserve community with a Conservancy membership. Learn more at millikenreserve.com. AT, can you pick apart, this is one of the things that Olin and I talked about in the first hour, Alabama, Auburn at the top of the SEC basketball standings. The champion of the league is likely to come from the state of Alabama. After that, there's a group of probably 6, 7, 8 teams to pick apart. Can you try to separate the best you can in this snapshot of the schedule, kind of how the rest of that league falls behind those two, Auburn and Alabama?
Yeah, I think that so it's actually a relatively easy question as far as I'm concerned. I think right now Florida is the clear third best team. I was a little slow on them. You look at their out of conference. North Carolina they beat isn't very good. Some of the games that looked big on the schedule in October, November didn't end up being that way. So I was skeptical, but really it was that SEC opener against Kentucky at Rupp Arena. They ended up losing 106-100, but that was really Kentucky, at probably its best at that point. They were fully healthy. Everybody was locked in, whatever. And I said, this Florida team's a real team now. So obviously they're sitting here, 21-3, something like that. The huge win over Auburn, no really bad losses on that schedule. So I would put Florida at number 3. And then I think really, you can include Texas A&M right behind them. Really just teams that I think are good, but there's something just not quite there. I think Tennessee obviously offensively has struggled, will struggle, is going to continue to struggle all year. I think Kentucky's issue was defense. Now it's just about being healthy. It's every time, they get somebody healthy, another guy goes down. Jackson Robinson, obviously a guy Aggie fans know well, went out the other night. You think you're about to get him back, and then Lamont Butler, their starting point guard, goes down with injury. And so I just bring it up because I think for them, they really need to get all their guys back and into a groove before we get really to March, and I think Mark Pope has even speculated that, hey, not only are those guys going to be back, but they'll be back healthy before the start of March. So I think to me, that's really the 3 behind the top 2. And then from there, Ole Miss has its good days and bad. Mississippi State has its good days and bad. I don't think I'm missing anybody else. Obviously, there's a lot of bubble teams mixed in, Georgia, Texas, etc. But I would put A&M in that group with Tennessee and Kentucky. There's just something where they're not a totally complete team. But listen, teams that aren't totally complete have made runs before, so it's not like it's a hindrance to having postseason success.
Yeah, and I don't mean to speak for you, AT, but it sounds like, and this is actually where my brain was when I asked the question. I've turned on, obviously, a lot of A&M games, but I've turned on Ole Miss. I've turned on Mississippi State. I've turned on Missouri, and I'll watch 5 minutes of basketball, and I'm like, yuck. And then you'll flip back to them, and they're playing at a really high level. I think it's just from about A&M down to Mississippi State in the standings in this league. Maybe even throw Vanderbilt in there, but I'll put Mississippi State in terms of talent in a rung above Vanderbilt. It's hard to pin down what some of these teams are.
What it really has become is, honestly, it's the way that we talk about SEC football. And certainly what I think we saw in SEC football this year, where on any given night, somebody could beat somebody else. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but, I hate to use the analogy, but it's kind of the perfect one. Texas A&M looks like a title contender in football the night they host LSU. A week later, they go to South Carolina. It's not so good. And I hate to do it to Aggies fans. I know that's not where you wanted to go this morning.
No, you're telling the truth.
It's also kind of a metaphor. Yeah, and I think it's kind of a metaphor for most of the league, really. And I think you can even include outside of really, Alabama and Auburn on the top, and then on the bottom, the few teams at the bottom, LSU, South Carolina, because, like you said, I mean, Ole Miss, they beat Kentucky last week. They play Auburn really tough, and then last night they were on the ropes against South Carolina. You look at even like a Missouri. I think if you don't, they're smaller, they play fast, they force a lot of turnovers, and it's like if you can inflict your style on them, you're going to have success. But if you don't show up ready to play, like Arkansas played them a few weeks ago, Arkansas was down like 21-3 after 8-9 minutes of the game because they just didn't show up ready to play. So, no, I think there's actually a lot of parallels between kind of what SEC football has largely become and what SEC basketball is this year. Now, the difference is obviously there are two clear-cut teams at the top. I don't think we're talking enough about the fact that a league where pretty much anybody can win on any given night, Auburn and Alabama are both 10-1 going into the game this weekend. Now about 2/3 of the way through the league slate. So they're having an incredible season. And it's not to say that other teams aren't playing really well. It's just to say that, like you said, you catch Missouri, you catch A&M, you catch Florida, whoever on the right night, they look unbeatable. By the way, same with Kentucky. Lost at Georgia at full strength. Lost to Ole Miss where they got blown out. So I think there's a lot of teams in that group for sure.
We talk a lot about the top of the standings. I'm actually going to ask the next question about the bottom of the standings. We were talking about it yesterday in the foyer. There's a chance, AT, that 4 of the bottom 5, I think Lamont Paris is safe at South Carolina because of the year they had last year. But you look at Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, and LSU. Of those 4, Aaron, how many do you think are looking for new coaches this offseason?
It's fascinating because I hadn't even put that into perspective, but I think there's a lot there. Listen, I don't have the pulse of every fan base, but what I'll say is I remember even, kind of being on the phone with a source a few weeks ago, and they were kind of speculating, okay, which jobs are going to open up, which jobs aren't. And I kind of mentioned LSU, and he said, McMahon just got there. And it's like, no, that fan base is kind of done with him, and I like Matt McMahon, but it's not working. And I think the other thing, how about this? Will Wade's not only winning, Will Wade is winning in your state. Like right now, McNeese is probably the best team in that state. And LSU fans, I don't know if they would bring him back. I don't know about the relationship with Scott Woodward, another guy that Aggie fans know well. But when your former coach that led you to a league title 5 years ago is in your state at the, not even the mid-major level, the low major level, that just doesn't bode well. Oklahoma, I was texting with somebody last night. It just hasn't worked with Porter Moser. I don't know why. I, like everybody else, saw the success at Loyola Chicago, thought it would work. It hasn't. Georgia, I always thought, there was some stuff with that hire that, I think they maybe did some people a solid, in making that hire, but it was not a hire that, inspired anybody or put fear in anybody else. And then a really interesting one is Rodney Terry. You guys might have a better pulse on where not only that fan base is, but I think more importantly, the administration is. But it just feels like, I don't feel like, with due respect to Coach Terry, that anybody was like fully, like you had to give him the job after he made the Elite Eight, but nobody was fully bought in. And I think the other thing too is that Texas, frankly, is really, in my opinion, in this NIL era, a very desirable job. I mean, Chris Beard basically insinuated he thought it was a blue blood, when he took the job, the type of job that you can win national championships at. And it's just funny with the Indiana job, there was a conversation the other day about, is that going to be the best job that opens up all year? I said, well, not if Texas opens up. I mean, if you give most coaches in this sport the option between Texas and Indiana, believe it or not, they're probably going to take Texas. So I hadn't really thought of it in the vein of those 4. I think certainly at least 2 or 3 of them are going to open. And by the way, I think there's a scenario where 1 or 2 of those guys could actually get another job before they end up getting fired. I probably would think Porter Moser would still be desirable in some parts of the country. But it's a great point by you. Hadn't really kind of put all that together. But all 4 of those schools, I'll say this too, and I know I'm going long, I'll be quick. Even when they were having success in the out-of-conference, those were the group, that was kind of the group that I didn't really feel like was sustainable, especially Georgia, Oklahoma. So I'm not surprised to see it kind of fall apart.
Last thing for you, AT, really quickly. There's some mid-majors, and I say mid-majors, just in the size of the program, they're big basketball names. But there are some mid-major schools in the top 25. I'm going to read them off. You tell me one or two that you think has staying power that could push toward a national championship. St. John's, Memphis, Marquette, and Creighton.
Wow. Well, I did a list earlier this week where I said, I think under the right circumstances, and it's kind of extreme, I think St. John's could win a national championship. I don't think they will. I think they could. I don't think Marquette can. Memphis is kind of interesting. I mean, they got a lot of high major players. You know, Tyrese Hunter was a guy that, played at Texas, played at Iowa State. And, they obviously had success in the out of conference, beating UConn, beating Ole Miss, on and on. So I think Memphis could certainly make a run. We just haven't really seen that from Penny Hardaway. I'm kind of out on Marquette a little bit right now. So I think, if I would put that group in order of most likely to make a legitimate run, I'd put St. John's. I think that Memphis is probably the most talented out of all those teams. Creighton and Marquette are having good years. I'm a little down on both of them. I would put that would be the order that I would put those teams in that are currently in the top 25.
Any insight of what you think we'll see Saturday, Aggies and Hogs at Reed Arena?
They're playing much better, man. They really are. And I hate to say that. Listen, I think A&M is playing very, very, very well. But I think that's the type of team, A&M, that Arkansas let me put it this way. Arkansas, when they want to rebound and when they choose to rebound, is a really, really good. They're not really good. They're a very good NCAA tournament caliber team. They're not super big, and just some nights even last night they just didn't really show up ready to play. And so the one thing about A&M, you got to bring your hard hat. And let me put it this way: I think it's going to be one of two things. I think it's either going to be 18-4 A&M 8 minutes into the game because Arkansas just didn't show up ready to play, or it's going to be a grinder. On both ends of the court for 40 full minutes because the talent is there. I think they've kind of finally figured out what their lineups are and who plays well together. But again, they just have these lulls where they just don't show up ready to play. And again, credit to A&M. They're the type of team, if you don't show up ready to play against them, they're going to make it ugly and they're going to make you look bad really quickly.
AT, always appreciate your time, dude.
Awesome, Brauning. Enjoy baseball. I can't wait. Saw an article today. Jim Pender's at UConn. He said it's time for us to make the last step to Omaha. So hope to see you there this year. I hope to see you there.
I'd love to sit down and do a podcast with you face-to-face from Omaha, Nebraska.
Ooh. DJ's Dugout. That's the spot, right? That's the spot that we got to go when UConn makes it to Omaha?
There's a lot of spots. I'll show you around.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, by the way, UConn, two super regionals in the last 3 years. So people think I'm crazy for saying it. It's not as far as that.
Absolutely not.
I'll see you in Omaha.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, AT. Aaron Torres.
I'm glad you know. I don't know how many Aggies know, but I know your college baseball. But we play baseball up in the Northeast too. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
Have a good one, AT. All right. When we come back, we will close the 9 o'clock hour. Got to give away some pizza. Be a very short segment on the other side of the break. You listen to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, real quick, got to give away some pizza. Final segment of the show brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50 right now. Caller number 12, 979-693-1150 will hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or one large topping pizza from Double Dave's, serving Aggieland Beyond since 1984. Serving up piping hot, serving up your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls with a reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click doubledaves.com and your favorites are on the way. I can't read this highlighted stuff. My brain can't function at a high enough level like David's can. We come back, Logan Lee, I think in studio. Somebody might have to go get him from the lobby. Logan Lee in studio. Also the fan show in the 10 o'clock hour. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
If you were going to go.
It's time. Off-camera discussions have to be muted, and we have to talk about on-air things. You ready? Ryan Brauninger back with you in the host chair on a B-team version, very B-team version of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We welcome in great friend of the program, great friend of TexAgs, longtime employee and basketball analyst, Logan Lee. I will say it's a joy to have you next to me because the alternative was Luke Evangelist and that helmet of hair that he's got currently. So
look,
he's been great.
My hair's thinning. Let him have his helmet of hair.
There's a little jealousy going on there.
And
I've been losing mine since I was 19.
And he's been doing a fantastic job.
Really has.
He's been doing a really good job. You can tell that he cares about what he does, and he is fully vested in it. So.
Hey, he's done all the research, he's got all the numbers.
Absolutely.
So gives a really good perspective on where this A&M team is right now, which I will ask you. Is this about where you thought they'd be in terms of win-loss at this juncture of the season? I actually think it's plus a game, maybe two, from where I thought they'd be. Just because I thought the league was going to eat each other up so much, and it has, but A&M's avoided the bad one.
Absolutely. I think, yes, this is where I thought they would be on an average pace. I did think that they could win a couple more of those games. I thought their high end for conference was probably maybe 12 or 13 wins, and that would be a really high end.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was their ceiling. But I thought they would get 10, 11 wins in conference, and they're right there.
Yeah, I mean they should go past that, even if you're a little bit negative on what could happen on the back end of the schedule. I mean, they're at 8-3 right now, and the bad loss is at Texas. And if there was one game where you look at and say, oh, that result should be flipped, bad loss, it's only one, and the fact that it's only one is a good thing. And then it's a game you had a 20-point lead.
And I think what helped in that scenario was the game before that.
Sure.
Exactly what Texas did to A&M in Austin is what A&M did on the road, and it almost exactly in the manner in which they won, and the lead, giving up the lead at the very end, and that was, although it was Texas and although they had a 22-point lead, it had happened the game before, and A&M was on the flip side of it, so it was a little easier to take. But no, this team is, man, they are playing.
It's so weird. I guess it's not weird. We talked about, Olin and I, the maturity level of the team, the guile, the leadership, because it's so hard when you come out and don't play well early and you're not locked in. They weren't, and it seemed lethargic, low energy. It's exceptionally hard to flip the switch and make it go the other way, and they did that. I think a younger team would have more losses because they've been in that scenario more than once this year where you had to go lean on that leadership and that experience to turn the switch, because it's not that easy.
I mean, you look at the growth and development of every single player on this team. Wade Taylor, one of the best scorers, if not the best scorer to come through the program. His growth as a point guard. I never considered him a point guard until maybe 4 or 5 games ago. And when you saw him only having to score 15 points a game, but he's impacting because he's distributing the ball, he's calming the team down, he's taking the necessary shots, the big shots that the team needs. You look at Henry Coleman and his growth. Awesome. Like how amazing has he been in comparison to just last year?
Dude, he ran the break the other night.
I know.
And finished, athletic finish around guys at the rim. He's I don't know if it's a light bulb's going on about how good he can be, or, you have these guys that are old that's like, man, this is my last go. It has to happen now. But he's on another level than what we've seen.
He's absolutely on another level. And I think it's the fact that Buzz and his staff put together those pieces around them to complement them. He didn't have to. This year, he doesn't have to be a guy that just plays with his back to the basket, because Henry Coleman has never been a great post player with great footwork in the paint. But he's been able to move around the perimeter, and with Pharrell Payne, it frees him up. Wade Taylor, hasn't really been a point guard type because he's never been asked, like, they've said he's a point guard, but it's always been, we need you to score 20-plus points a game. Well, now you add Zurich Phelps, and you don't have to score 20 points a game. He's going to alleviate some of that pressure. You take your good shots, your big shots, handle the ball, make it work, and become a more all-around player. That's what he's done. Anderson Garcia, those passes, he has become one of the best passers on the team. And it's not with Andy, it's a feel for the game. He's always had a feel for where the ball is. I'm going to go get this offensive rebound. I'm going to go get this defensive rebound. I'm going to play defense, whatever it may be. He's had a feel for the game. But now he has the ball in his hands a little more. But it's not stuck in his hand. He's not just standing there, where am I going to go? Okay, I can make this pass. It is a touch pass. It's a catch it and hand it off. He's done great.
Well, and the other night against Georgia, I want to get your thoughts on just the turnaround, because Buzz mentioned that it happened with about 90 seconds left in the first half. We saw the full fruition of it in the second half. And Olin made a good point. Like, there was a direct line to their energy level picking up, and then obviously the results on defense being better, but the offense became more efficient.
And I don't know, this doesn't really equate to the game, but you have more fun watching it. You can see when that point comes and they turn it on, and all of a sudden, me as a fan watching, I'm a little more calm and a little more relaxed. They got this.
Yeah.
You can see them turn it on. Their defense is getting stops. Their offense is clicking.
Well, I thought the offense, like the looks they got in the second half, were like real looks. They were running Hayden Hefner off double screens.
Absolutely.
I thought the ball movement, I love it. You brought up Anderson. When Georgia went to the zone and they put Anderson, and I think even Solo at a time, at the high post, like, I've not seen that offense move like that against the zone defense this year.
And then, but here's the thing. They've never put them right there in the middle of the zone, breaking it down. They've always just played around the perimeter. And it's always been jack up a three, try to go get a rebound from the high post, that's the best place to get a rebound when you're in a zone or when you're playing against a zone. Put Anderson at the top of the key, fire it up from the wings, and let him just go at it, and he'll get some rebounds. But when you find those gaps and you can get the ball to Andy and he just turns and scans the floor, he's made really good decisions and great passes, which opens everything up. If they don't have that in the middle of the paint, they aren't able to shoot those easy threes, those open threes, because they haven't rotated the defense. They haven't spaced it out. Putting them in the middle, that changes everything for a zone.
Well, I think in Solo, like the way he's played this year, obviously his game has continued to develop, but that was the most well-rounded offensive performance I've seen from him, where he's in the mid-range, like confident in a jump shot. I don't think he's ever lacked confidence when he gets open on the wing to take the three.
No.
But to see one go down, it's like once he got that shooter's roll at the beginning of the second half, it really took off from there. I've just been so impressed with him. He's refined his parts so much.
I just think that they found their roles. They have found what is being asked of them to do, and they're not going outside of the box because those roles are fluid, and Buzz gives them leeway. But because they are a mature team, because they're an older team, that leeway isn't taken advantage of. If Buzz would have given them this leeway 2 years ago, all hell breaks loose. They lose probably 2 or 3 more games because the youngster in them, that vibrance, the lack of understanding, they'll force up shots, they'll take bad shots, they'll make turnovers. Right now, they're rolling. They are a veteran team. They're playing like a veteran team. And they're, with all the pieces put together, I really do think they can beat anybody that's left on their schedule.
You know, when I look at them from a very novice basketball standpoint, they can win a rock fight with anybody in the country. If you want to get on the floor and bump elbows with these dudes, they'll do it for 40 minutes with anybody. The problem is when you play somebody that's got real talent, NBA talent, that can heat up from beyond the arc, and you're going to have to play catch up or play chase with them.
Yeah, I think playing catch up is hard will be hard for this team if they get down to Florida or Auburn, guys that have just as much, if not more talent, a little more size. I wouldn't say athleticism because this team is athletic. This
Right.
A&M team is super athletic. But we haven't seen that. They've had the discipline against teams that have a higher number or no number in front of their name. We need to see the discipline against teams that have a smaller number in front of their name. I still think that there's things that this team can prove, that this team needs to prove. But where they're at right now, they can make a deep run into March.
Sure, they can. And
they can make a deep run.
It's all about a lot of matchups and how you
Absolutely.
get seeded, that kind of deal. But the resume they're putting together should put them in a better spot. When I look around the league, the most impressive team to watch is Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
Because to me, when they get the ball out of the net, off the backboard, out of the
They're
net,
gone.
it is up the floor.
They're
It's like
gone.
watching an NBA game.
Yeah, they're gone.
And so I think there is, like, A&M is closer to Auburn in
Mhm.
terms of talent level. I think Bama is kind of by themselves. I actually think Kentucky's pretty talented too.
Kentucky's really talented.
They're just beat up.
Yeah, they're really talented.
But in terms of raw talent, like, I think A&M is in that group with Florida, Auburn, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Like, I think they're all close.
I mean, Solo can put his head on the rim. Pharrell Payne has at whatever you want to call him, 6'9".
Do you think he can play in the NBA?
Probably not right now. If someone takes a chance on him, if he goes G League, if he develops, maybe.
He's so athletic, man. And
He's super athletic, and that's what got Quentin Jackson his couple of moments to shine was his pure athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with Pharrell is how big actually is he? So Joe Jones, I played with him, big guy on the team. We always thought he was a monster. He goes to the combine and he's like, I'm going to exaggerate here, but they're like, he's 6'6". He's not really 6'6", but in comparison to the bigs,
yeah,
Joe wasn't a big. How big is Pharrell Payne? And can he extend his game? Because the game has changed so much. Can he extend his game? I don't know if the league is going to take a project on like that.
Well,
but if
his raw height is, let's say his raw height 6'7", 6'8". He plays obviously bigger than that. But I think to your point, can he step out at 12, 14 feet and hit a jump shot, pull guys away from the basket, or is he more suited for between the blocks?
So now you look at it. If you're 6'7", 6'8", is he going to guard Jason Tatum? Is he going to guard LeBron?
Right.
Is that like that? That's the size of guys in the league.
I'm pulling for him because he's been such. I had no idea what he was coming in from Minnesota, and I got to think that he's even surprised some people in the professional scouting circuit with how he's played this year.
I agree. We've had a number of scouts in here, and they like his athleticism. They need to see the skill set. How does the skill set translate into the NBA game today? Like I said, if he can stick in the circles and continue to improve, and someone takes a chance on him, his athleticism and his ability to develop and learn will allow him a chance.
I didn't have many questions prepped for you, but one that I wanted to ask was, right now, what is Texas A&M's best offensive lineup, best five on the floor to put the ball through the hoop?
Wade, Zurich.
Who plays the one?
Wade.
Okay.
Wade plays the one. He's been, like I said, he's been playing. I would consider him a point guard right now. He loves to get the shots up and he loves to score the ball. But what he has been doing for this team in the last handful of games since coming back from his injury has been really phenomenal.
He's been much more mature with handling the ball, I think.
I would say put Pharrell at the post. Man, you've got to have Solo out there. If you're going offense, I wouldn't put Solo in there, but just his energy and his intensity, it just bleeds over into everybody, and it enhances everybody's game. That's the same thing as Anderson Garcia. I don't know about the best offensive lineup because I feel like you have to have one of Andy or Solo in there because of their hustle, their intensity, but those two guys aren't necessarily great offensive players.
I went with Solomon, and I think 1 and 2, the 1 and 2 spots are your difference makers in terms of offensive basketball because both of those guys can go for 25, 30 a night. What I'm saying, though, is Solo at the 3, obviously Pharrell at the 5, and I'd go Henry at the 4. The way he's playing right now, dude.
I mean, yes and no. I just Solo at the 3 out of offensive capabilities is tough for me.
So who would you play on the wing? Hef? It's tough, right?
I mean, if he's having a good night, yes. If Manny's having a good night, yes. If Solo plays like he did, then yes.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where, and we talk about this team, the puzzle pieces that Buzz has. You know, he could play 9 guys in a given night, or he could play 7 guys and ride whoever's hot. Like he could put Hef out there, and if Hef knocks his first 2 down, he's going to get 20 minutes in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But if he doesn't, he might only get 12 minutes because he's going to then say, "Okay, Manny, it's your turn. Manny, what are you going to do?" And if Manny could then go off, but I think the core is Wade and Zurich with Pharrell, and then I mean.
Mix and match.
If you take Pharrell out and you put Henry at the 5, you can put Andy in there, and I mean you see how good of a connection that those two had in beating the zone. I mean,
that was so much fun to watch. I remember the most fun offensive basketball was when Georgia was in that zone and they just throw it to the high post, and it was like I've not seen A&M do that.
Andy did it. Henry was the recipient of some really good passes, right on the money, on time, on target, where all he had to do was catch the ball and go straight up.
And he's a quick jumper. Reminds me of Nebo a little bit in that aspect.
He didn't used to be.
Or was it Courtney Roberson that was like a real quick, kind of broad dude? Nebo was quick off the ground. Yeah.
Courtney, if you're listening to this, you could barely slide a piece of paper underneath. Courtney wasn't quick off the floor at all.
Man. I hope he calls you. I hope he's listening.
I hope he does. I have an argument for it. I got film. Film doesn't lie.
All right, Logan. Well, anything real quick before we get you out of here, just quick thoughts on Saturday against Arkansas, who's playing better.
They are playing better. Another team just like Georgia where they don't have a number in front of their name, but they can beat you if you let them come in here and get on a roll. I think A&M is just going to do exactly what they did to Georgia, except they get down by 11 points. They'll be fine. They've got to play their game. They're on a roll. They've got some confidence. Continue the streak and then get this win and then worry about what's to come.
Yeah, manage the final couple weeks.
Yep.
All right, thanks for coming in, dude. Logan
Absolutely.
Lee, talking Aggie basketball. When we come back, a healthy dose of Maroon Kool-Aid, the fan show on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. TexAgs Live on a Thursday morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Ryan Brauninger. A B-team version of the show would not be complete without Matt Browning.
Without Matt Browning talking as soon as we come back from break.
That's true. It's very true.
Well, we've had a lot of mishaps today, which is what you're going to get with the B team. But we are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. It's time for the fan show. I mentioned Matt Browning, Roy May. We always start with what's on your mind, and with the coalescing of a lot of sports right now, I think this could go anywhere. Even some recruiting news today. So, Matt, start us off. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm excited about this. I'm fired up really about this weekend. This is going to be super fun. I mean, I'm trying to pull the doubleheader on Saturday. I've got my wife committed to one. I got to get her committed to the other one. So.
She has to go with you?
Well, I would like for her to, yes. I'm trying to.
How about my bride said, hey, for Valentine's Day this year, I'd like to go to opening day with you.
Oh, see? Hey, you found you a good one.
Pick the right one, I guess.
You found you a good one, because mine wants to go. I just can't talk. I'm trying to talk her into going to both. So we've got basketball already in, and I'm trying to squeeze in baseball. I mean, do you walk across the street?
Well, the good thing is, I don't know, not good thing. I'm sure it's not good for Coach Earley, but there's some weather that's coming through on Saturday that may move first pitch back.
Yeah.
So it should allow more people to do both.
Correct. And so to go watch a top 10 basketball team in the middle of the hunt, right, as we sit right now, and especially after this last game, which was unreal. I mean, talk about a tale of two halves. Wow. But to go and watch that and then go watch the number one baseball team in the land play opening weekend is going to be a blast. I mean, this is as fun a time as I can remember, especially this time of year that we've had in any time I can remember.
Well, I mean, take a look around. Like, read the room, man. It's top 10, number one team, another top 10 over at Davis. Yep. I mean, it's outstanding. And, I mean, I know there's tennis this weekend. I mean, this is the time of year where if you say you don't have anything to do, like, you're doing it intentionally.
Sure. I like that. Yeah. Roy, what's on your mind?
Big time on basketball, just because it was, well, obviously right now, because we're getting closer and closer to March, so the bracketology talk, picks up. But you're far enough into the season to where you really kind of know who you are, which is hilarious because you talked with AT, and there's a handful of teams in the standings where you're like, I don't really know what I'm going to get every night.
Isn't it crazy? Like, and I'm not singling out A&M by any means, but if you are a neutral fan in, Monroe, Louisiana, and you're just an SEC fan, and you turn on the SEC games, basketball games, and you watch A&M play that first half, you're going, God bless that. They're no good. But you could say the same thing about Ole Miss. You could say the same thing about Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi State. That group of teams outside of Bama and Auburn who've played well all year. Yeah, and Missouri being that mix too. Like, every team has some real warts.
Yeah, what's crazy though is, I mean, how many of us watch the SEC games in non-conference, right? Probably not a whole lot of people were following all the conference in non-conference. We're just following the Aggie for the most part. But what we're seeing is that narrative of the SEC being just a ridiculous conference in basketball this year. I mean, they're talking about it being the best ever, right? And this is coming from people who know ball, like Jay Billis. So we're seeing all these kind of things exposed, but we're seeing it exposed against such amazing talent and teams that, if they were playing in the non-conference level or playing in non-conference, you're not going to see a lot of these problems. So it's interesting just to kind of watch how we progress. And it's not even game to game for us. It's like half to half. It is like, if you're on heart pressure meds, I don't know if you necessarily want to be an Aggie basketball fan this year, but they're still so fun to watch. And what's funny is it was the worst half. Like, I can't remember last time I saw a half like that.
Well, they played Southern. Remember they played Southern early in the year, and it was like,
that was pretty bad. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they're putting up like a high school score at halftime, right? Yeah. And what's weird is I was sitting there thinking, we'll probably be okay. That's what this team has given you, is until the buzzer goes, just about, minus a couple of games, until the buzzer goes.
They do such a good job of, like, these games, they get to teetering points where you're going, all right, like, this could get really ugly, really ugly. And A&M kind of just keeps.
They put the, they plug the hole. It's like there's this leaks hole, and the dam's about to break, and for some reason they're able to keep it together with chewing gum. You know, at some
There
point.
has to be the guile and the experience of the roster.
And that was something we talked about going into the season. You want to talk about experience and not just the starting five. Like down the bench, this team has played together for so long and they know each other so well. And they have been embedded in this culture for so long together. You know, it's like when you have a squad or a platoon in the Army that's managed to stay together for a really long time, they're in that system and they work together without having to talk. You know, they don't have to communicate to communicate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we see out of this team. And what's funny is, you know, when they're in these down points, and it's the part where the threads have gone completely off the rails, right? The game threads, which again, stay away from those. But you don't see that from this team. Like their body language is still good. The communication is there. They're not blaming each other. And so when you combine the experience and the culture and all this stuff, oh, and by the way, a lot of talent, they're exciting to watch. They are frustrating to watch. And I cannot wait for the run in March.
We played an absolute stinker in that first half. And if you watch basketball long enough, you're going to see, I mean, Jordan's Bulls had stinkers. Kobe's Lakers had stinkers. Duncan's Spurs had stinkers. They would. You just have bad games from time to time. But I will say the one thing is, when we go in at halftime, I'm like, we're going to get back in this game. I didn't know. I would never have told you we were going to turn around and completely blow their doors off in the second half. But I knew we would get back in the game and it was going to be a competitive game all the way then. Just because we've watched enough of this team to know that they are resilient. It's like they didn't even think about the fact that they just got it handed to them in the first half by a lesser talented team, although Georgia is still talented. That's a good basketball team. They just happen to be in a really hard conference. They play really hard teams, but to turn around and go on a 22-0 run, is just insane to me. To have how long did it take them to get their first field goal? It was a dunk by the Sideshow Bob kid.
There was like 8 minutes left in the second half.
So they went 12 minutes without a single field goal after they were just draining everything. And I will say, a lot of times you'll see that and go, okay, the other team's kind of falling apart. I don't. In this case, we turned it up like I've never seen.
They didn't give it to us. We took it from them.
Yeah, we took it. Like we gave that Texas lead away. We gave that away. They played well, but we gave that away. This case, we absolutely just shut them out, and it was so fun to watch.
I want to expound upon that on the other side of a break because I think there's so many interesting dynamics to this Aggie basketball team compared to the other sports on campus right now. So when we get back, we'll talk more with Matt Brauninger and Roy May on The Fan Show. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. What I was going to say is, like, and show inside the Rollo Insurance Studios, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Ended last segment talking about how this Aggie basketball team is perceived by the fan base, not in a negative way at all. It's interesting because if you were to poll 50 A&M fans, Roy, and ask them who their favorite football player would be, you'd probably get 10, 15 different answers. Yeah. If you ask them who their favorite baseball player would be, you'd probably get 10, maybe 10 different answers. I feel like with a smaller roster, a much shorter roster, if you ask this Aggie fan base, who's your favorite Aggie basketball player, you might get the same type of diversity in your answer because everybody is just drawn to a different individual for a different reason.
Well, it's funny because we talk about culture and everybody pulling the rope in the same direction, right? And that's really what we're seeing out of this team and this program. But you have so many different personalities on this team, like just from person to person, and it's and because the sum of the parts kind of thing, right? Everybody has a unique role, but it's not we need five equal parts. Like everybody, it's a puzzle, and they fit well together. And what's funny is when you pull one piece, you have a piece that you can pull in, and it still completes the puzzle from the bench. And so it's easy to like these kids. And again, some of that just comes from how they represent the university, how they conduct themselves on and off the court.
Henry was awesome in his post-game interview.
Henry's fantastic. I've met him. He's a fantastic kid. Well, grown man is what he is. He's not a kid. I just make myself sound old. But it's easy to, because if you grew up like in Rodman, you're a Solo or a Garcia guy. If you love scoring, you obviously love four, right? Everybody loves four, but you like what Phelps brings, the dribble drive. Hefner, like just blue collar work and improving himself, like truly like pull himself up, like and changing and elevating his game this year and what he's done. So it's easy to see where people and it's kind of like one of those. There's no wrong answer. If you're like Matt Browning here and you're stuck in the '90s NBA game, like you could love Payne because you love a true big man post presence.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
he's not even your favorite.
No, he's not. I mean, that's what's so crazy is that you like them all so much that you go from your star, who is Wade Taylor. There's no doubt about that. And then you've got Phelps, who is just who has flashes of just brilliance on offense. You got Obaseki, who is just as solid as it gets when it comes to he's athletic, all this. And then you turn around, you go to, like you said, you got Hefner, you got. If you like the old school, Chuck Person's rifleman, you got oh god, I'm afraid to
CJ Wilcher.
Yes, Wilcher. Thank you. Sorry, Wilcher, if you're listening. I doubt he is. But you got Wilcher. Then you go to the bigs, and you got Anderson Garcia. I almost called him Anderson Varejao, but he looks like a young Boris Diaw throwing the ball, or like Bronny said, Vlade Divac. And then you got, Pharrell Payne, just true post moves, an old school style of basketball where, again, they don't work on post moves anymore. Kids don't you work on that footwork. He's got that footwork. You can go to the post to him. You can feel like he's going to score. Henry Coleman, who has just been a staple with this program, who has just been as consistent as anyone. And then, of course, my favorite player is Solo. Solo, and the way that he plays is just so fun to watch. He's so fiery. He's the cheerleader on the sideline when he's on the sidelines. When he's on the court, he never gives up. 110% energy, effort, all the stuff you want out of a basketball player. So it's hard. Who do you pick? And so everyone's got their favorites. Mine's Solo, but I like all of these guys. Who's your favorite, Roy? I already know. He's going to say Hefner.
It's probably Wade.
Huh?
I think Wade coming back shows a lot. And I understand in today's day and age, I'm guarantee I know there's NIL stuff, but for Wade to come back and it's almost like, hey, let's run it back one more time. That leadership, it's not necessarily just his play. To me, a lot of it is his leadership and his demeanor on the court. There's a presence to him. Yeah. As small as he may seem amongst Solo and Payne.
Unbeknownst to you, you just made a fantastic segue because what I was going to say is Wade coming back endeared himself to a lot of the fan base.
Correct. He'll go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest basketball player. Well, there will always be an argument with AC. There'll always be a couple of people we can argue with. But he's on the Mount Rushmore Aggie basketball.
Mm-hmm. But when you were talking about coming back and how much that endears you to this place and this fan base, we saw that happen a lot last summer with this number one Aggie baseball team.
Jace.
It's a reason why Jace and Caden Sorrell and Gavin Grahovic and Even Ryan Prager for different, he wasn't in the transfer portal, but he gets drafted and comes back. If you want to talk about reasons why this Aggie baseball team is entering the season, not number one. Number one is because they're talent. Why they're entering the season so popular amongst this fan base and why that ticket at Bluebell Park is going to be a tough one to get all year.
Because they chose to be Aggies.
Is because they fought for this place. And you know as good as anybody, Roy, that when you endear yourself to this place, it endears you back tenfold.
100%. And you forgot one, kind of a key piece. Michael Earley.
For sure. It's been so cool. So both fall exhibition games, he comes out for lineup exchange, standing ovation. First pitch scrimmage, which was an inter-squad scrimmage, and they were having to put people in the suites because there was no more room left when it started for an inter-squad scrimmage. They announced the entire roster, Early's last, standing ovation. Like, this fan base recognizes that this guy fought to get this job here and wants to be here for a long time.
I would like, years down the road for somebody to be able to sit down with Michael Earley and him be able to tell you, like, what it felt like, almost like he was kidnapped to go to Texas. Like you saw the pictures of him in the Texas uniform. It looks like, he's reading off a script like, I'm fine, Mom and Dad, I promise I'm fine. Like, blink twice if you're okay, guy. And so I'd love to hear kind of how that went down, the shift to Texas and then the back to A&M. I'd really love to hear everything about that at some point, down the line. But, one thing we're also not talking about, and we'd be remiss if we didn't, is Aggie softball and Mac Barbara.
Yeah, she's worth the price of admission. And Patricia Ford, I'm a huge fan of her.
Oh,
she's
absolutely.
been great. Mac Barbara, if you're a casual softball fan and you haven't gone to Davis Diamond to watch them play, she by herself, when she comes up to the plate, it's Lavalette-esque.
Didn't she hit one like 360?
No, she in the game that I was at, she had a foul ball at 85 miles an hour exit velo. That is unheard of.
Yeah, in softball. Yeah,
that's like a baseball guy hitting at 125.
Golly.
And she hit it 314 feet.
Yeah, 314.
It was foul.
That's otherworldly.
Like I told Coach Ford, she was in the office the other day, and I was like, hey, I just want you to know, like, when I was at the ballpark watching Mac hit, I was making audible gasp every time she swung the bat. Like, she hit a double on a pitch that was 6-8 inches off the plate, a missile over the left fielder's head. The left fielder had no chance. I was laughing because I was like, what am I watching here?
She hit a homer with an 18-degree launch angle.
Yeah, that's almost flat.
Wow. Wow.
So
if they can get the pitching figured out behind Emily Kennedy, they're going to be in a really good spot.
And I think that was the biggest thing coming in. And it's funny that that's on both diamonds. That's like really kind of the only concern because the fielding's great over Davis, the softball team, and they look great. It's funny because they reminded me a little bit of Aggie basketball to an extent, like slow starts, the first couple of games. But that comeback win against Baylor was awesome. And then kind of hit your stride, run rule Purdue to call it a classic. They play today. I'll be watching. I love Aggie softball, but if they can get it right behind Emily Kennedy, and that freshman went out, I can't remember her name, but freshman had a great performance.
Lessentine, Sydney Lessentine.
Yes, thank you. She had a great, when you have a freshman able to do that, that's kind of rare in South. I mean, it's really rare. It's on both diamonds to have a freshman come in and dominate at the next level, especially big time next level.
You're doing great with your segues. How about a freshman going to make an impact on the baseball diamond who is going to be familiar to guys of your age? And Terrence Keel Jr.
The old guys like us who remember Terrence Keel as one of the better safeties in A&M history, number one. And then
does it make you feel old that TK Jr.'s here? And
yeah. And it's tragic that what happened to his father. And
getting out of bed makes me feel old.
He was an absolute super. For those of you who don't know, he was. I think he was on his way to being very. I mean, for Chargers. He played for the Chargers and was fantastic. And
if you put him in your all-time A&M defense at safety, I wouldn't argue.
I know. No, he is right there. He is right there with. I think Armani Watts is one of the greatest ever, and so. You put him in there, Dono, guys like that.
Justin Evans, Rich Cody.
Oh, Jackson Appel. If you go back in the day, but big play Jay Brooks. Gotta give him a shout out.
Jackson Appel is back in the day.
Yeah, for us, I mean, this Jackson Appel is back in the day.
Kevin Smith is back in the day.
Yeah, Jackson Appel is back in the day too nowadays, bud.
But TK Jr. probably going to be lining up in right field with Caden Sorrell kind of on the men right now.
And so so that's kind of that's something I'm super excited about. I love the fact that yes, we're going to go out there as fans. We're going to cheer on these guys that came back. You know, Jace and Kent and Gavin and all the guys, Hayden Schott, all these guys that we're super excited about.
Schott cracks me up.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, that guy's funny. I thought I said something wrong. He laughed at me. Roy's inclination, if I say something stupid, is to laugh at me on air. So I
at you a lot.
I do it off air too. So.
He does it. So, but no, I'm super excited to see the new guys, the transfers. You know, you got Cash, you got, to really, truly though, Keel is going to be, I don't know much about him. I just know what Bronny has told, and Bronny is high on him, and Bronny does know ball.
He is electric on the bases.
So
it's crazy how fast he is.
Yeah, for me, it's the same because he's literally going to have the opportunity to make an impact day one, inning one, right? So I think it's an easy pick, but it's also because of what we've heard coming from camp and coming from practices and what we've heard about him. And we obviously know he's got, a lineage of athleticism kind of thing.
Well, I think, I sat down with him a little bit and he just talks about how cool it is that people come up and say, man, I loved watching your dad play. It's cool that you're continuing his legacy at A&M. And he's going in a spot in right field where Caden Sorrell, by a lot of accounts from professional scouts, has been the best player on the team at times. So it's unfortunate that you're going to be without Sorrell probably for the first weekend at least. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. But they're better safe than sorry.
Why push
but
him
then you're going to run
Elon?
out a kid that's as athletic as Terrence Kill Jr. Just speaks to the depth of the club.
Yeah, and having that speed on the base paths, so even when Sorrell comes back, you've got that time. He'll be your pinch runner.
Yeah.
He'll be.
What if he performs at the plate? He's a viable option as a pinch hitter.
Yeah, sure he is. And with Schott still dealing with the knee thing, and then you've got this team. One thing, if you're going to look at it, you're like, they don't run well. Like, there's not a lot of guys that can really fly. Jace is an elite runner.
Yes.
TK Jr. is an elite runner. Sawyer Farr is pretty close to an elite runner.
Sorrell can run.
Sorrell's a really plus. But the rest of them, they're not. So you're going to have opportunities late in games when Schott gets on or Bender Up gets on or the catcher gets on
bring in some
different things. And so that's where I think that they can make a big impact over the course of the season. But obviously, getting those guys in games and knocking the stardust off of them and where they're not going at the crowd, wide-eyed at the crowd or anything, I think is going to be important for Coach.
Well, that scrimmage, probably helped a little bit just because how many people we packed in.
Yeah.
And it'll be another wake up when they have to go on the road for the first time. It's that's just part of the experience. But it's funny we talk about Terrence TK Jr., but it reminds me like Caden Sorrell. And I could be wrong, but I remember when he first came in, I was like, first of all, he looks like he's 12. All right.
He doesn't anymore.
Yeah, no, he doesn't
looks
anymore.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I remember when we first started playing, I was like, who is this guy? And I feel like, he wasn't great at the play, like made some mistakes in the field, and I'm just like, what is this guy doing? And now to see where he is relative to a prospect in the outfield for the big leagues, it has been fascinating to watch him advance and develop.
All right, got to take a break. We'll have a quick segment on the other side of the break. We'll get maybe some baseball preseason predictions from these guys. We'll close the show on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Yes. All right, very quickly, we're going to end the show and get you over to the Louis Bellina show at 11 o'clock. Before we exit, Roy May, season prediction for the Aggies. Where do they finish in the league, and are they a national seed?
They'll be a national seed. I think they either win, just a regular season title?
Yes.
I think they either win or come in second.
Who leads the team in homers and how many?
Jace, I'm going to go 28.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to say we are, based on everything we're seeing right now, I say we win the league outright. National seed, probably number one. I mean, hey, why not?
If you win the SEC,
we're going to be number one overall seed, hosting everything, and I'm going to go with Grohovic as our home run leader, and I'm going to say 30. Let's go crazy.
Obviously, I think first or second, third in the league. I think they'll be a national seed. Only reason I'm not so bullish on them being number one is because not all schedules are made evenly. A&M plays a bear of a schedule. Keep an eye on, in terms of home run leader, keep an eye on Gavin Cash.
Okay.
He had 23 a couple years ago at Texas Tech, 15 last year. He's been sensationally good.
And will be the hunted all season. So
bold prediction. We hit more homers than we did last year.
I would predict the same. All right. Ryan Brauninger done hosting today. Nick Savage in the host chair tomorrow. As we get ready for a very busy weekend in Aggieland. Thanks for tuning in to TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner's Jewelers. All right, we got to get out of here because